Hey YouTube, welcome to another paper trading session. This is going to be the second one that we're going to be doing. The first one we covered was a long on ETC, and then in this video we're going to be going over our Cardano short trade, and we'll just be discussing the daily chart, but mainly we're going to be looking at the 4-hour and hour time frame. So first let's discuss the market structure that we're able to see here. First key level, very easily seen, is the key level of resistance, support, resistance, and resistance all along here, which is going to signify our supply zone, which is around here. And then we have our key level of demand. We can see that right here, where the price got picked up and then started making a bullish momentum to the upside. So overall, we have our key level of demand and supply, and we also see that there's a mid-range zone that we bounced off of here, here, and here. So that's the three zones that we're going to identify. Let's just draw those in right now. Like that high there is a little bit wide. There's our high, and then we see our demand zone right here. Let's just make that a little bit bigger, and then that's going to be green because that's our demand zone. So we have our supply zone, we have our demand zone, and now we're going to be looking for our mid-range zone, which we can clearly see this zone right here. Let's make that a little zone, and that will be white because that is just a zone of sensitivity both to the upside and downside. So we can clearly see on the daily chart, we broke below the zone of this mid-range area, and now we are retesting to validate it as a new level of resistance. So automatically, because we're on a downtrend, because we're pulling back and retesting these previous zones of sensitivity, we can now assume that we're looking for a short trade unless we get a break and a hold above this current level as a new level of support. But for now, because we're below it, because we're retesting, and because the momentum is to the downside, we're going to use this area as a new level of resistance. That means we're going to be looking to short the market, making money on the way down. So now that we have the overall aspect of the trade and we have the market structure and the momentum, we can now look to get into the granular details, looking at potential price action patterns on the 4-hour and hour time frame. So let's just talk about that for now. We have our key level of supply, which is our mid-range zone, and then we have our demand area, which is going to be our final take profit zone. So now that we've identified and clearly outlined the overall structure and what we're looking to attain, we can now look to see a potential price action pattern that we're able to identify within the structure of the smaller time frame. So right now we got to push to the downside, and we're now just making higher highs and higher lows, getting the price back up to our key level of supply, which is around 0.06183 on the Cardano chart. So now let's just talk about, or let's just look at what the price action is doing at this point in time. We see this small minor level of support there, so the price is kind of making a bit of a reverse head and shoulders. At this point, we're wanting to see either the price hold below this zone or break and then retest for a new level of support. But let's just see what the price action does right this point in time. We see a nice push to the upside. Good solid rejection off this zone here. Let's see what the price action can come out to do. So we're on the 1 hour now. Potential nice reverse head and shoulders. We see previous level of support turn into a new level of resistance. So if this turns into a new level of resistance, again, that could be a nice head and shoulders play because we're using the bigger aspect of the supply zone for our key level of resistance to potentially push the price back down. Also, just looking at ascending supports, we see that nice break of the ascending support right there. So it could look like a nice retest and a short on this particular trade. So let's just get our projection and then go above the zone. So we're covering that whole area. So what we're looking for is a double confirmation rejection off this zone here to put us in a short trade, and then we'll be taking profits all down here because this could be a nice push, pullback, and a nice next extension towards the key level of support. So that's going to be the overall aspect of this trade. But first, what we want to see is to see a double top of our zone of confirmation. We saw one top here, we see one pullback. We're looking for two pullbacks. There's our completion of the one. We're looking for another pullback. We see it right here. And then we see now a double confirmation that there is sell pressure keeping the price below our key zone. So at this point, Now we are looking to enter because let's just talk about the flow of the market at this point in time, getting our snip. So we have a key level of supply, which is here, which is pushing the price down. And we see it all here. Now we're making a high, a lower high, and a lower high. And then we made a low, and then this is a lower low. So we're making lower highs and lower lows, which is good for bearish momentum. We see the price break a key level of supply and retest it for a new level of resistance. We see this support zone here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we break it, and now we are retesting for a new level of resistance, not just once, but twice on the hour chart. We will look at the 4-hour before we actually enter, and we also see a head and shoulders. There's the left shoulder, there is the head, and then there is the right shoulder there. So we see the left shoulder, right shoulder, and then we see a break of the neckline, which is right here, and a retest forming a new level of resistance. So overall, it does look pretty darn good for an entry, and let's just quickly look on the 4-hour chart. It looks very well respected here. We got a very good rejection from the previous level of support as a new level of resistance, and we see the price break our ascending zone, and overall it looks pretty good. And on the 1 hour we get that double confirmation with two zones where we see the price come up and reject it, pushing the price right back down, both situations. So what we're going to do for our trade plan is we're going to set a stop loss above the recent high there because it's a short, like so. And then we are going to have our first and second and third levels of take profit. Our first level take profit is going to be around the risk reward of 2. So let's just look where we can find that. So we're going to have it right around this zone where we have it as a resistance as well as a support, which has a risk reward of 2 to 1, which is pretty good. That is our minimum. And then we're going to have our next take profit at the lows here. And then we're probably going to have the last take profit if it does actually come all the way to these levels. So we're going to have 2 quick take profits right here, just so it has the initial curve, and then we could see a push to the downside. Let's just get our snip here. So we want to capture is the short from here to where the lows are right here. And what we could see is a double top and then a consolidation. So we want to capture the meat of the move where there's the most amount of support, which is going to be right here. And if we are able to see the price break and then retest and push forward, we do want to have that last take profit there. But for now, we want to catch the meat of the move, which is going to be the first take profit with a risk reward of 2. And then we'll have another one at the lows there. And if we are able to capture the price below this low, that's great. I'll put a stop or I'll put a take profit there. But for now, we're just wanting to capture the move from here to here at this point in time. And then if we get a further take profit, that's great. And then we'll move our stop loss to break even and then a little bit further. So we got a profitable trade no matter what. So overall, that's the outlook for this trade. I'm going to have the take profit, the final take profit all the way down here. But we're going to have 2 take profits, one here and one here. And we're going to move our stop loss to break even once we hit that first take profit, the risk reward being 2 to 1. So now that we've covered the whole scope of the trade, we went over the 4 hour, the 1 hour, looking at take profits, looking at risk. We're basically risking up to the recent high there, and we're going to be using this zone as the zone of demand or zone of resistance for the sellers. Where they're going to be not 1 but 2 areas of confluence for the sellers to be located. So now that we've covered the entire trade, now it's just actually playing the price action. So let's look at what we're able to see. See the pullback, not actually seeing the price continue to the downside, even though there was sell pressure. Let's see if the price is able to have a move to the downside. It looks like we are seeing a similar low there, not seeing the ideal situation, but let's just continue on with the analysis. And we are just sitting on our hands at this point in time. So we see a lower low form, which is good. So now we're getting the lower high and lower lows. I think at this point in time, we will lower our risk to below the recent low. So it's just going to be right here, because if we do see the price to come up a little bit, I don't want to get stopped out too early. But overall, it's looking like a good potential trade so far. Let's see what this is able to provide us for yield. Don't see any take profits hit at this point, so we're just going to continue with our analysis. No take profits hit at this point. We saw a lower low. This could be a lower high at this point. And we're starting to see the price very, very close to our take profit. Still not hit it at this point. We see the price not able to hit that zone. At this point, I'm moving my stop loss basically to break even. So now we are not in a trade that is risking any money. We are basically 100% risk-free at this point in time, making lower lows and lower highs. I don't want to see a spike and hit a stop loss, so then I'm losing money. So now our risk is at 0, which is going to be probably just up here because I want to make sure that I'm capturing the commissions and the overall commissions and fees and all that stuff. So that's going to be my stop loss right there. So I'm going to let it run. If it doesn't hit my take profit, it doesn't hit my take profit. But that was the initial trade that we were looking at. Got a solid push. Looks like we could be hitting our take profit. Unfortunately, we got a huge rejection down. I think what I might do is, because we saw a higher high, and if we see a higher low form here, I think the trade could get taken out there. So I think what I'm going to do is at this point in time, take a little bit off because we saw the higher high form there. So like this is a paper trade, so obviously we're not going to be doing exactly how we would normally act, but I'd take some position off at this point in time, and I'd raise my minimum take profit to above this zone. So if the wick does go at this area, I'll take profit. But at this point, it's not looking very, very good for our trade. We're already risk-free, which is pretty good. And then my first take profit is sitting right there with already 25% off the trade. So now we're playing with 75% of our money at this point in time. And I think that's the final take profit because we aren't seeing the strong push to the downside like we want. So we got 25 off, let's say 50 here, and then the 25 for our final take profit. And let's see what the price is able to do. See another push up, and it's very, very close to hitting my stop loss, but it's not yet, and there is a take profit, or sorry, the stop loss. So what happened in this trade? Let's break it down here. We got a very small win, no loss, but not a big win whatsoever. So what happened? We entered at this point here, right here, which is a good spot to enter. We saw a little pullback. Retesting these highs again, and then it got rejected, pushed down, made a lower low and then a lower high, and then we got our initial momentum to start right here, making a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. So it was looking really good, but we did unfortunately see the price start to trend back the other way before it hit our first level of take profit, which is right here with a risk reward of 2 to 1. Did not hit that, and then once we saw the price trend back up, I was like, okay, we could hit another level of resistance because it was a previous level of support. We just flew right above that, no real hesitation, and then we made our first higher low. This is a high, and then this is a higher high. Sorry, it made a higher high, which is not great for our short trade. So once it made the higher high and it came right back down here, I thought, okay, this is not looking good because we made a higher high. I took a little bit of profits right off here. Definitely risk reward of maybe like 1 to 1. If our risk was here, it's looking like a risk reward of 1 to 1 for 25% of our profits with a risk reward of 1 to 1. That's definitely not ideal. We're looking for a 2 to 1 risk reward. Ideally, that's really, really, really not nice looking 2 or 1, but you get what I mean. We're looking for that 2 to 1 risk reward. We unfortunately didn't get it. Once we got the higher high form, I was definitely a little bit worried. And then we basically put the stop loss to a little bit below break even. So we are in the profit no matter what. Took a little bit of profit here, and then we closed the rest of the position off there. So we had we had 3 take profits. One of them got hit. So I'd say the overall average is probably sitting right here. So less than 1 risk reward, not ideal. We're probably looking at like 0.8 to 1, 0.9, 0.7, something around there, 2, 1 for a risk reward. So not ideal, but still a win. We wanted to manage our risk and push as far as we can to the downside as we can, but we did find a level of support there. So we want to ensure that we're capturing as much as we can, and we close all that out. Now that we've taken a little bit of profit, for the market, we are seeing the price come back up to our zone. So now we've captured a little bit of profit. Now let's discuss what we're able to find on the bigger time frame. So we got our little push to the downside. We made a higher low, which then we can create to form our ascending trend line on the bigger time frame on the 4 hour. But for now, we did the best we could to capture a high to a low. It could have just been a push, pullback, and then move to the downside. But what we could see a push and then smaller pushes, and then we see a move to the downside, creating our ascending trend line. So that's our next potential move that we could be looking at. So that's something that we want to keep an eye on. So this is a low, a higher low, and then a higher low, and then a higher low. We just connect the higher lows, wait for the break, pullback, and then we enter before the next impulse move. So unfortunately, that wasn't a straight move to the downside, but we did capture a little bit of profits while the market was moving to our intended direction. So now the market's coming towards our supply zone. This is going to be an area of sell sensitivity, and we're just going to be looking at the charts, not really analyzing just yet. I'll just connect these two zones of support because I do want to make sure that we are capturing a potential higher low at this point in time. So let's just see what the market does. We're in no position to enter at this point. If we do see the price come up to our key level of supply, we could look for a potential short opportunity. But for now, we're just going to be looking at what the price action is doing. We see the price right at the supply zone. I'd want to see the price come up a little bit higher before we look to enter. We see a huge drop in price because it's a supply zone. Let's just continue on with this trade here. We see a nice wick touch at our support zone, which is pretty good for the validation of that wick again, which is good because then we can depend on it a little bit more. Let's just draw that nice projection zone, creating our strong level of ascending support. And then we're just seeing what the price action is doing. We see another push up towards our supply zone, but we aren't seeing that price really push to the highs of the zone. So for me, it's just a level where I'm not really looking to enter until we see a short that's able to be taken from up here as a possibility. But for now, we're just seeing the price now come very, very close to our key level of ascending support. I'd want to see the price break, like always. Now we're just drawing our zones. We see a nice level of descending resistance right here. So the price is now squeezing towards the apex. Let's make that a different red, a little bit more vibrant, a little bit pops a little bit more. And let's just connect that all here. So we see a very, very nice squeezing of the price. Let's just get our resistance right there. So we see a nice squeezing of the price. Our bias is towards the downside because this is a very strong level of supply within the market, looking at the daily chart. So we have a strong level of supply. The market is making higher lows, looking like it potentially make lower lows and lower highs. And this is the zone where the market could shift. So we're really wanting to get active around these zones, looking for a small minor level of support that it breaks and retests as a new level of resistance. Once that comes into play, then we can look to enter the market. But until that happens, we're just going to be spectating, really making sure that the price is breaking our zone. So I can definitely say this looks like a breakout at this point. On the 4 hour, what do we see? A nice clean break of the zone. Very well respected. And now we're looking for tests of the zone. We see our first test, second test, already looking like it could be a great potential short for us here. And looking at our zone within the chart, looking at the recent zone here, we see a nice level zone of support turn into a new level of resistance there. Not perfectly touching it, but let's just extend this out a little bit further. So we have a nice new level of resistance. That was a previous level of support. And I think that's the zone I'll be using to risk my trade off of. We've already had 2 rejections off this zone. So looking at the breakout, talking about the flow within the breakout, we are making lower highs. This is a high, this is a lower high, this is a lower high, this is a lower high, and lower high. So it's good for market structure. And we do see the price break previous levels of support. We see right here, previous level of support, turn into a resistance. So it overall looks good on the smaller time frame, on the hour, on the 4 hour. We have broken it. We have held below the zone. It's looking pretty good. Overall, the trade is structured in a really good manner. At this point, I think it is a good situation for us to enter because we held below our zone of confluence, key level of resistance because our previous level of support, as well as it is a bit wider than ideal we'd want to see. But looking here, we see the support bounce. Once we broke it, we're looking for resistance, and that's exactly what we saw with 1 pullback, rejection, 2 pullback, rejection, and that is when we can confirm that we are now in a bearish momentum. We could have the price break this zone, retest it as a new level of resistance before we really get that confirmation. And we could do that. I don't exactly know what I want to do at this point here because that is a double confirmation and this is a double top. And if we break that zone, we could be looking to get a really significant dump below the area. And let's just look at this a little bit more clear on the larger time frames here. Let's just look at the flow of the market before we make any decisions. So we see a nice level of resistance, support right there. There's resistance, support all along here. Resistance, support, resistance, support, 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 support. So all along here, I'm seeing it's a very, very good level on the chart that I can use to depend off of. So I think I am going to use this zone as a level of resistance. So now that we've got our entry here, because we have two confirmations that the sellers are going to be entering the market, there's volume distribution, meaning that there is higher sellers or more sellers within the market compared to the buyers, which is also another indication that we could see a strong move to the downside. We are going to increase our stop loss to the recent high because it's a short. And then we will be looking for short opportunities here. Let's look at the 4 hour to see where we could have our first take profit zone. We are looking for a risk reward of a minimum of 2. So let's just look right there. 2, so we got our nice good level right there. That's going to be our first level of take profit, which is going to be a risk reward of 2. And then we got our second level of take profit, which is going to have a risk reward of probably 3 or a little bit more, 3.1, 3.2. which is pretty good. And that's going to be our two main take profits. And then if we do get the price to come all the way back down here to our key level of demand, that will be our final level of take profit. But our two main ones are going to be at the 2-to-1 risk reward and then the low of the structure. And if we're able to get that price to come all the way down here, that will be fantastic. But for this example purpose, we're going to have our take profit of 25% of our position here, 50% of our position here, and then the rest of the position, which will be another 25% at this very end zone. And we'd be managing that end 25%. If it does dump all the way up to this position here where the key level of demand is, that's great. If it doesn't, we'll manage it to get to the best of our abilities. But for now, that is the structure of the trade. And if we are able to get the price to stick below our key level of resistance, that will be looking really good. So let's play the price action and see what it does while I have a commentary with the candle by candle decisions that I'll be making. But overall, we're not going to be doing anything until we kind of hit our first level of take profit, which is around the 2-to-1 risk reward. So let's continue on with our analysis and go candle by candle. We see a little bit more of a pullback. We see the price playing within that zone of consolidation, which is good to see. The price is nearing the support zone, and we see the initial break, but the bulls are able to stick the price and keep it above our minor level of support. But we do see that there's a lot of sell pressure. We see a lot of sell volume coming in, which is good for us in the intended direction because we see more volatility coming after the price is breaking the ascending support there. So overall, looks pretty good. We see a pullback. Still holding below the zone, and we're wanting to see a dump here very shortly. So this is going to initiate the momentum, in my opinion. We could now see the price really start to gain momentum because now the shift in trend, because of the break in support from the confidence getting lost because of the break, and the confidence gained now for the seller. So there's that momentum continuing, which is really good to see. And then we see a pullback validating the previous level of support now as a new level of resistance. This could be a good entry for the second round, people, because previous level of support very well laid out right here. Very good very good bounce. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very, very easy to tell support, which turns into a new level of resistance. And we don't see a lot of buy volume bringing the price back up to test that new level of resistance, which is pretty good. So that was, for me, if I didn't enter already, that would be my next zone of entrance, and then I have my stop loss above these two tops right here. So overall, that is how I would structure that entrance if I already didn't enter on the where I already entered. So let's continue on and see how this second entry will play out if it does. So the price is holding below the zone very, very well. Holding the zone very, very well still. Strong level of resistance. And we're still seeing the price hold below the zone. Let's just put this a little bit forward, basically right where our entrance is, and let's just bring this to the front. We're still holding the price, or we're still holding our stop loss where it currently is. I think that if the price does come up to this zone, I don't want to get wicked out too early. Overall, the structure still looks very good. We've broken the zone. We're making lower lows. We made a recent lower low there, and it does look like we're making a lower high. So overall, the structure of the market is still in our favor. And then it looks like we're testing the low there. See if we're able to break a lower low. Let's see if we're able to break a lower low. Very, very significant rejection from the sellers. Still not being able to make a lower low, but overall, we're still seeing the market structure in our favor. So we don't do anything yet. We're still seeing that low come in, have not seen a higher low. Each time we're getting the price to test this zone. You can see that right here. Rejection, 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 rejection. We're seeing a lot of rejection at this zone right here, which is signifying that there's a lot of sell pressure. But on the opposite side, we see a strong level of buy pressure right here, holding the price in our zone of consolidation. So right now we are seeing both buyers and sellers hold the price within our key mid-range zone of consolidation. But overall, I'm still going to hold the price where I am. I'm going to keep my stop loss where I am because the trade is playing out in my intended direction. I did not know what was going to happen when I entered here, but overall it is breaking resistance, is holding supports, so it is still going in my favor. Let's continue on with the analysis here. Still holding below, and then we see the initial break, but the bulls are still able to hold it above our support. But I think the stop losses, or at least some of them, were hit at that zone. And then let's see if we're able to break this zone. Really trying to break it. Not able to at this point. So we got to close on the 1 hour of the break. This is signifying that we could see some more bearish momentum soon to come. The breaking of the support floor, which is right here. So overall, we've made a new lower low, which is great for our lower low, lower high structure that we're looking for in order to capture the most of this bearish momentum to the downside. So overall, still looks pretty good. Very happy with the trade overall. Not going to move anything. Going to stick with the trade and keep the take profits and all that stuff where we're currently at right now. So let's continue on with the analysis. Seeing it edge closer to the first take profit. So boom, right there, we hit our first take profit. What do we initially do? Move that stop loss right to break even. So now we are 100% out of a negative position. So we're going to basically be having a profitable trade no matter what happens within this market. Let's get our stop loss zone, and we'll move that stop loss zone just below the break even point. So we're going to cover commission fees and all that stuff. So now we are in a profitable trade. Already 25% of our initial capital is taken out because we said that we'd put 25% taken out here, 50% at the low, and then the last 25% at the start of the demand zone, which we have a very solid risk reward with. But even if we hit the 2-to-1 risk reward and then the 3.2 risk reward, that's still looking really good for our risk reward structure for this particular trade. So overall, we are in a bearish trend, lower lows, lower highs, looking really good. Move the stop loss from a risk of whatever it was to break even. So now we are in a trade, in a positive, profitable trade no matter what, making our move to our second take profit level. So let's continue on with the analysis. Not going to get too antsy here, and let's just see how this trade unravels. Just seeing how the lower lows and lower highs are structured. There's that nice new fresh lower low, very close to our second take profit. Let's see if it's able to hit it before the move to the upside to create our lower high. Let's see if that price did hit our take profit. It looks like it did, and it very well did. So it hit 50.40, and we were at 50.42. So there is two take profits hit. We have now 75% of our trade out of the position, and the last final trade, or the final take profit, is going to be all the way down here. Why did we look at that in the first place? Well, because this is the low of the structure right here. We wanted to capture this low right here. Theoretically, we could have looked at a mid-range zone. I think right there is a mid-range zone we could potentially look at. Let's just actually, we could move our take profits to 25 to 25, so like 13.5, or 12.5, I should say. But let's move that right there. And I think that's a little bit too greedy to think that this is going to go all the way down here. So I think I will change it. And in order for me to go candle by candle on the hour chart and wait from here to here would be a little long. So I shortened the take profit a little bit because the last is only 25% of our take profit. And we've already seen the price hit 75% of our profits. And we'll move this down further at this point because we've now held this key level of support and resistance. So we'll move the take profit or stop loss to above this zone. So now we're going to be playing within this range here. And if we're able to go further down, that's great. And if we're not, we will capture 75% of the profits predetermined. And then we'll just take the last 25% if it sticks above that zone. So overall, we're looking pretty good. Here's our new level of support there. So that is the structure that we're looking to stick within, is above the support there and below the resistance. And this is our final take profit level. So let's continue on with analysis to see what we're able to get. We see a strong bullish move to push the price initially to the resistance. That is where we drew the price in initially. So let's see if the price is able to stick below this zone. So we see an initial push back down to our low there, creating a double bottom. If it's able to hold at the low, it will create a double bottom. Let's see if it gets any buy pressure or buy injections in the market. We've made a lower low, it looks like, and it did actually break. So this is very significant on the 1 hour chart. Let's quickly look on the 4 hour chart. Yes, it does look like we are closing on the 4 hour chart. So this is a major move because we've broken and created a lower low. We can see that low right here. And then now we've created a lower low on the 1 hour chart, and it looks like it's going to close on the 4 hour chart as well. So we made our push to the downside, we made our pullback, and now it looks like we could create the next wave to the downside, and we could be capturing a great move to a mid-range zone. So we're going to hold on, not move our stop loss. We may be able to push it back a little bit so it's above this lower high. But overall, I think we could hit that final take profit of around 0.0454454. So let's see what the price does. Looking still on the 1 hour chart, trying to make as much money as we can while continuing the trend forward. So we really held that zone. So I think what we're going to do is move our stop loss above our new level of resistance, which is this guy right here. This is our strong level of resistance. And if the price goes above that zone, we will take our profits. But if it keeps on trending down, we'll take our profits at this mid-range zone that we've discovered on the 4 hour chart. But overall, let's just see what we're able to capture with this. We're just letting the price continue to fall until it hits our mid-range zone, or it bounces up, hits a higher high, and then it hits our take profit, taking us out of the trade. So it looks like we're holding below this zone pretty well, not hitting our take profit. That was a strong level of a rejection. So the question is, do I want to move my stop loss a little bit higher to give it more room, or do I basically just want to cut it out because that was a previous high and then we broke past above the high? I think what I'm going to do is give the price a little bit more room to breathe. But if it takes me out, it takes me out, and then I'll average out here, here, and then here. So my average would be looking somewhere around there with a win of around 10%. I don't exactly know how much I was risking. Let's just look here. I was risking around, let's say 2%. So that's great risk reward of 5. If I was risking, maybe I was risking up top here. I don't exactly know. I can't remember exactly. I think it was maybe at like 4, so it would be a little bit less, just maybe 2 or 3 risk reward. It's not ideal, but overall, I still think that we could drop more because we are holding below that zone. So I think I am going to give that price a little bit more room to breathe, giving it a little bit more space because I think we could stick below our key zone of resistance, and it's just a little wick on the 1 hour chart. So let's continue on. I'm going to leave my stop loss where it is, and it just got wicked out. All right, so that's the overall trade analysis that I got. I got almost all my take profits to get hit. I was really wanting to see the price push below the zone there and then continue on. Let's just take this out, and that's where I got wicked out. Let's just say because of my average was here, let's say it's right in the middle. So I'm looking at, let's say if moving my stop level, let's say 0.0597, 0.05, let's just put 9. And then we can move it to initially where we had it. I believe it was above this zone. I think it was. I don't exactly know. But somewhere around there. Let's look at the 1 hour and see if I can actually pinpoint exactly where my entrance was and my stop loss. I think my stop loss was above this zone. I don't think it was this low, but I think it was just above this zone here. So let's say it was at around 4%. The risk reward that I took was around 2.6, which is pretty good. If I was able to capture a bit more, it would have been obviously better. A risk reward of 3 would have been good if I was able to capture profits at this low here, but averaged out probably around 2.6 as a risk reward, which is pretty good. And that was the trade setup that I took on ADA, and then it did hit most of our take profits. We were a little bit eager by wanting to see the price come back down all the way to this zone here. But if we just take off those minor zones and quickly just look at the structure of the daily, we could have easily seen that capitulation form with the structure of the bigger daily candles. Here we can see a push to the downside, a pullback, and then a push back down. And then we did unfortunately break above this zone. I think on the daily we could see that zone used as a level of resistance, and we could potentially see some more bearish action continue to the downside. But overall, We got that entrance from here to the low, and that's exactly what we wanted. Ideally, we would have saw that continuation to the downside, but we can't ask for everything, and that overall was a very good trade. So I hope you got something from this second trading session. So we're going to try to do these, incorporate them a little bit more often. I hope you got some value from them. This is going to basically try to illustrate how we trade as cryptocurrency traders. We trade on the hour chart, 4-hour chart. We try not to dive into the 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, even 15-minute chart. We try to stick to the swing trades because I don't have to be literally in front of the screen 18, 20 hours a day. It's just not healthy. And having the ability to actually be able to be out of the house is very nice sometimes. So I hope you got something. To give a good overview, we always do these talks at the end of our live trade sessions, our paper trading sessions. And I just want to say our ascending zones and key descending zones are very, very dependable. But the main thing we want to ensure that we're squeezing towards an even more significant zone. So we see this zone is very significant, but we're squeezing towards an even more significant resistance. Same thing if we're squeezing like this, like if we're squeezing kind of like here, and we know this is a very strong demand zone, and there's a level of descending trend line connecting the lows, kind of like we saw here. The price is squeezing towards the apex, and we're squeezing towards major key zones, and this is a very dependable pattern that we like to trade in. Our first take profit level is going to be at the low, and then if we're able to capture below, that's great. If not, we've captured a significant move from kind of mid-range, breaking the key level of resistance or support, depending on which you're going, to the previous low or high. So there's not a whole lot more to talk about. Just overall, in terms of paper trading, in terms of practicing your actual trades, this is how you do it. I do this every single day. I go over trades that I've traded in the past. I go over setups that I've traded in the past. I look over trades that I missed in the past. I look over different markets. I try to mainly stick within the crypto market because that's my main asset class that I like to trade. But overall, this is the best way to learn how to look for entries and actually capture those entries, because it's really easy to see. Looking back, if you've already seen the whole price action play out and the move happen, it's easy to say, oh, I would have entered there because it had a nice pullback and because it gave me a bullish indication that there's buy pressure within the market. It's easy to see that once you see that 8, 10, 15% move already occur. But it's a lot harder. It's a lot more challenging to have that conviction without actually truly knowing. And this is why paper trading is by far the best way to practice trading. Backtesting is great, paper trading is great, and this is why having the replay button and spending a little bit of money on your TradingView application in order to get the replay availability is important in my view, and I use this all the time. Whenever I see a good setup play out, and if I'm not in it, if I missed it, if I entered and it hit my stop loss on a wick and it came right back up, I'll always retrade it from the hour chart, from the 4-hour chart, looking from the daily and weekly, moving down, top-down analysis. I really make sure to actually do this every single time, because that's how you grow as a trader. You see what you're doing wrong, you see your entries, you see why you want to enter where you're entering, and you just repeat it over and over and over again. That is how you get better as a trader, and I will be doing these a lot more because they help me out, and I mainly do this by myself. I don't record it, I don't talk about it, I just go through it in my mind. Obviously, I'm able to just go through it without going this slow because I don't have to be speaking. I just know what I'm doing. But overall, I think these are very helpful. I really wish I got something like this when I was coming up as a trader, when I was coming up learning what is a good entry signal, what am I looking for, how do I do top-down analysis, what do I look for in an entry for take profits, for stop losses, all this stuff. And I learned how to do that through practicing over and over and over again. I never really had a mentor to look to get advice from. Where does that take profits, how to manage a trade. You know, you just go through error after error after error after error, failure, and it is very challenging, but it puts you in a place where you have to see failure differently. I love Ray Dalio. I love his quotes of saying failure is the, I guess, success in failure is seeing the reflection and progression. Or sorry, I screwed up on that one. Progress equals failure plus reflection. That is the quote. Progress equals failure plus reflection. So in order to see any progress in life in any aspect, if it is trading, being a good boyfriend or girlfriend, becoming a better student, becoming really anything that is going to positively impact your life, you need to fail at it. That is the first thing, and then you need to reflect on it, seeing what you did wrong, seeing what you did right, doing more of what you do right, trying to eliminate what you're doing wrong, and then just repeating the pattern over and over and over and over and over again until you have a system that allows you to have a pre-planned strategy to attack certain opportunities that life throws at you. And that's really the act and art of trading. So that's a little bit of the rant of this trading session. Like I said before, I'm always going to have a little bit of a rant at the end, just discussing things that come to mind, discussing the trade that we took, kind of wrapping up anything that could be useful for things that we learned within that trade. And this one wasn't really anything pertaining to this trade, but it was more of an overview of the paper trading sessions and why they're important and why we're going to have more of them in the upcoming future. But like always, I hope you learned something. I know I talk pretty fast. There's a lot of things coming in through my mind. I'm only going to touch on a little bit at a time, but with each paper trading session, there'll be a tidbit of information or a little golden nugget that you'll be able to find, as well as being able to see what price action patterns are dependable within the cryptocurrency market and how we trade them, how we look for confirmation, how we look to actually enter, take profits, stop losses, all that stuff is able to be shown for free within the YouTube channel, 100% public. So yes, this is kind of giving away a lot of the value that we provide within the Performante Premium channel, but we will not be posting exactly what we're trading live in the current markets, but this will show you how we trade. So then if you do have a good grasp of TA, if you have a good grasp of how to already trade, you don't necessarily have to purchase our premium in order to learn how to trade like us, because this will show you exactly how to do it. But you may want to enter because of $30 a month for our first month. If you have like if you have $1,000 trading account, you only need to really make a 5% profit, or you can make really any amount of profit with $1,000 in a month, and you'll be able to pay that $30 monthly fee. It'll go up to $60, but if you have a deal, it could be $50 or $40 a month. If you're going month to month, it'd be $60. So you don't really need to be making a whole lot in order to be actually paying for the services, even with a mere $1,000 account. So I hope you got something from this. Enough talking. We'll catch up on the next one. Until next time, happy trading. Hope you guys kill it for the rest of this week. And then if you have any questions, let me know. If you've been doing well, let me know. If you haven't been doing well, let me know. I'm just interested to always talk about trading to traders.